Everyone said the open city was crazy. Like swarms of infected running around everywhere.
Not exactly like that.
You know, people like to tell stories.
So there aren't super infected that explode fungus spores on you?
Shit, I hope not.
Or ones with split open heads that see in the dark like bats?
This video is sponsored by Nebula, which rules. So in the past 5 years, the hottest thing on TV has been the apocalypse. No, I don't mean the news coverage of the pandemic and climate-induced natural disasters that are once in a generation. I mean the stellar HBO series about finding meaning at the end of the world. Wait, no, I don't mean The Leftovers. I mean the stellar HBO series about finding meaning after a pandemic wipes out a huge swath of humanity. Wait, no, I don't mean Station 11 either. I mean the stellar HBO series about survival following an unimaginable disaster, directed and written by Craig Mazin. That's gotta be the right one. No, wait, that's Chernobyl. What I'm trying to talk about, of course, is The Last of Us, the post-apocalyptic zombie show based on the acclaimed video game. Sorry, they're not zombies. They're just fungus-infected people who behave exactly like angry mushroom zombies would. You know, what Chris Pratt is getting warned about in the Mario trailer.
Do not touch that mushroom, you'll die!
For the record, I fully expect a Mario movie Last of Us crossover. Come on. Now, post-apocalyptic TV shows are nothing new. One of the biggest shows of the 21st century is The Walking Dead, after all. But I find myself watching The Last of Us with a bit of a different perspective from the post-apocalyptic shows of the past. Primarily because we just lived through our own mini-apocalyptic event in the form of COVID-19. You never forget your first apocalypse, am I right? Now, I am enjoying The Last of Us, but it's hard to understate how the past few years are coloring my perception of the show. It was the first thing I thought about as Tess, Ellie, and Joel walked through Boston in the second episode. It mirrored the empty cities we saw all over the world during the pandemic lockdowns. And there's something about that baggage that I just can't shake. Even if the show really does not want to address the elephant in the room. While the show is an incredibly faithful adaptation to the game, or so I've heard, I don't play any video games that were released after 2003. Shout out to Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga for the Game Boy Advance. But there is one major change that The Last of Us makes from the source material. In the game, the cordyceps fungus spreads through airborne spores. You gotta mask up and everything.
Hold up. Spores.
In the show, it's through a good old-fashioned bite.
One of them got bit. The healthy ones fought the sick ones. Everyone lost.
Sure, they're not zombies. They just bite people and turn them into infected monsters who want to eat other people. You know, like a zombie would. Part of the reason behind that change is certainly due to the fact that they don't want to make another Pedro Pascal project where he has to hide his beautiful grizzled face behind a mask. And for that, I thank them. But that change also puts some distance between the apocalyptic event in The Last of Us and the pandemic we just witnessed pretty intentionally. Sure, you might say, but I'm not watching The Last of Us for commentary on our society. I'm trying to escape, baby! And that's fine, I get that. That's a huge reason post-apocalyptic stories are appealing to everyone, including me. They allow us to escape from the most obnoxious parts of our existence. Bills, that job you hate, and those junk emails you keep getting even though you're pretty sure you unsubscribed. Nancy Pelosi, I will not donate to your campaign. You have enough money from insider trading. The allure of the escape doesn't end there either. Dreaming about the zombie apocalypse is an American pastime that rivals baseball. You can start a conversation with anyone in this country by asking them what they do in a zombie apocalypse, and when they say, are we talking about fast zombies or slow zombies? Everyone knows exactly what they're talking about. We all have a plan for where we'd go, who we'd take, and what supplies we would need to grab before yeeting out into the middle of nowhere.
Okay, good. We've got a wide skill set for any post-apocalyptic scenario. I'm good at archery and kind of want to die.
I can use my glasses to start a fire. Twofer can get us through black, gay, and nerd-controlled neighborhoods. Cerie will be some sort of queen in the new society.
I will do sex with cannibals as needed.
As A.S. Hamra described it in The Baffler, the zombie apocalypse, our favorite apocalypse, seems to unite the right and left. It combines the apocalypse brought about by climate change and the subsequent competition for scant resources with one loosed by secret government experiments gone awry. Better still, both of these scenarios, as were typically shown in graphic detail, necessitate increased gun-toting and firearms expertise. We sure do love our guns. USA.
Can I have a gun?
Absolutely not.
Okay, Jesus, fine. I'll throw a fucking sandwich at them.
Even 20 years after the apocalypse, we still can't keep guns out of the hands of children. The Last of Us is truly about America. But in all fairness, The Last of Us takes place many years after the apocalypse. This isn't a World War Z scenario, outside of the first 20 minutes. The show is decidedly post-apocalyptic. One big reason I think people love post-apocalyptic stories is that it allows us to interrogate our own morality without the weight of societal expectations. It's why so many zombie stories involve having to euthanize a close family member who is about to turn. These stories can also provide space to reimagine the world free of our constructed social systems, to experience a kind of rebirth. As Doctor of Literature Wes Burdine explains it, end-of-the-world narratives allow us to imagine large-scale rebirth and play into our utopian desires. I think some of the best post-apocalyptic shows of the past couple years do just that. The Leftovers takes place 3 years after 2% of the world's population suddenly and randomly vanished.
So many of our loved ones were lost 3 years ago. It's hard to know how to talk about them without feeling, well, we really don't know how to feel. Because we still wonder where they went and why.
While not utopian by any means, the story that plays out is deeply interested in this idea of rebirth, processing our trauma and coming to grips with the big, existential, and unknowable questions that the world presents us.
Will I forget them?
Never. Station 11 takes this idea even further, going so far as to imagine a post-apocalyptic vision of Earth with some optimism?
We're the traveling symphony. We travel for a reason. You burn the house down, then you go. Just try to make the world make sense for a minute.
It focuses on art and community and our human superpower to foster connection with our fellow people and create meaning from those connections.
This strange and awful time was the happiest of my life.
It is decidedly hopeful, and I think that is a major reason the show resonated with so many at the end of 2021. After almost 2 years of the pandemic, it was beautiful to think about the indomitable human spirit, a world where there was still danger, certainly, but where our connection with each other and our perseverance were first and foremost. Whenever you have zombie or apocalypse conversations with people, there's a set of them who say, yeah, I'd just simply opt out. I just opt out, toast in the bathtub style. I'm just, I'm tying, I put rope to a tree and I'm watering that tree. And I think that one of the most interesting parts of Station 11 is how it shows that actually there still is value and meaning and joy to be found. Station 11 reminds us that connection and meaning are just as important human needs as survival. That survival alone is insufficient. It's a title of the episode and everything. And at its best, The Last of Us does the same thing. Ellie and Joel's relationship is the emotional backbone of the show, a genuine connection formed in the ashes of devastation.
That is so goddamn stupid.
You laughed, motherfucker.
I didn't laugh.
Yes, you did.
Jesus, I'm losing it.
You're losing it big time.
Frank and Bill's full episode romance is beautiful precisely because it depicts two people finding meaning in each other at the end of society.
I'm old. I'm satisfied. And you were my purpose.
The work of everyday life can sometimes get in the way of what truly matters, and post-apocalyptic shows can help remind us of that by stripping away everything. But that begs the question, if post-apocalyptic stories are meant to imagine a new world, what is the new world that The Last of Us envisions? Well, I would argue that it's a lot less interesting than either The Leftovers or Station 11. The Last of Us is not particularly interested in grappling with the existential horror of losing the world or in building a new one from the ashes. Characters are disposed of as quickly as they're introduced, leaving Joel and Ellie to just keep on enduring and surviving, which I agree is a bit redundant.
What's that comic book say? Endure and survive?
Endure and survive. That's just redundant.
Yeah, it's It's not great.
This post-apocalypse is the same kind of survivalist wet dream we've seen in media many times before. It turns out that all those people with "don't tread on me" flags, hoarding guns and resources, and being ever fearful of their neighbors were right all along. You can't trust anyone. Community is a scam. It's everyone for themselves.
So what, you were a prepper or something?
Survivalist. Maybe you are decent people. Maybe not. Doesn't matter. We're self-sufficient here. I don't need you or your friend complicating our lives.
It's very much like The Walking Dead. The real zombies were the friends we made along the way. It's strange to me that when you strip out all of society, the only thing The Last of Us imagines is a more restrictive version of the same world. The shadow government is even more oppressive.
You live in a psycho bunker where 9/11 was an inside job and the government are all Nazis.
The government are all Nazis!
Well, yeah, now, but not then.
People care about each other even less.
You trust her? No, me neither.
There's no art or sports or community. For those bathtub toast people, you know, why stick around? What in The Last of Us do you say to the toaster and to the bathroom toast people? You know, what do you say to the bathroom toast people? Personally, I think that this is a misreading of humanity. You might say, oh, it's more realistic. But us assuming that everyone would just be out to get us is an uncritical recreation of the same dog-eat-dog world that we already have.
Business is a dog-eat-dog world, and I am a shark who eats dog-eat-dogs.
Well, the zombies certainly complicate things, you might be thinking. It's cute to think about how hopeful Station 11 is, but it's hard when you got clicking demogorgons running around. And I think that in regard to COVID, presenting the post-apocalyptic world as more or less an amped-up version of our own society could be really poignant. It's something that a lot of people noticed at the time, that COVID accelerated already existing trends. During COVID, writer Douglas Rushkoff noted that the privileged have entered their escape pods, writing about how the rich are mostly able to avoid the consequences of apocalyptic events with their wealth and power. It was a follow-up to a piece he'd written in 2018, when he was asked to speak at a conference about technology and the future for hedge fund uber-wealthy people. There, they asked him about the event, their term for the apocalypse. But they weren't concerned with mitigating it. They were concerned with insulating themselves. They knew armed guards would be required to protect their compounds from the angry mobs. But how would they pay the guards once money was worthless? What would stop the guards from choosing their own leader? The billionaires considered using special combination locks on the food supply that only they knew, or making guards wear disciplinary collars of some kind in return for their survival, or maybe building robots to serve as guards and workers, if that technology could be developed in time. For them, the future of technology is really about just one thing: escape. It's a really bleak but interesting idea that The Last of Us isn't really that interested in exploring, at least not yet. Nobody is to be trusted, and on the rare occasions when they are very quickly unalived. Even Bill's antisocial hoarding is seen as some combination of smart,
This guy was a genius,
and cute.
I traded Joel and Tess one of your guns for a packet of seeds.
Which gun?
A little one.
I used to hate the world, and I was happy when everyone died. But I was wrong. Because there was one person worth saving. That's what I did. I saved him. Then I protected him. That's why men like you and me are here. We have a job to do. And God help any motherfuckers who stand in our way.
But even in the context of the zombie genre, The Last of Us feels kind of flat to me. The zombie, as we understand it, is actually incredibly young, first appearing in George Romero's 1968 film Night of the Living Dead, a film that is very heavy on its social commentary.
We may not enjoy living together, but dying together isn't going to solve anything. Those people aren't our enemies.
The film stars a black man who survives the apocalypse before being shot to death by white vigilantes who assume he's just another zombie.
All right, Vince, hit him in the head, right between the eyes. Good shot.
It's a clear commentary on race that is impossible to separate from the social context it arrived during, premiering just months after Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. As Hamra describes, Romero drove home this central point, that a zombie-infested America differed from the status quo only in degree, not in kind, by ending his film with realistic-looking fake news photos depicting his characters' banal atrocities. Now, this is not to say that The Last of Us is bad, or that I don't like it. I don't even necessarily think that it's fair to pin these ideas on this particular show, but you know, I'm trying to make content out here, okay? I gotta figure out something to talk about the bigger thing, so that's why we're talking about The Last of Us, okay? And because I think that it's been mildly disappointing for where I thought it was gonna be. It's just that, having now lived through a pandemic, this conventional approach to the genre feels a little less interesting. Beautifully made and acted and shot, but played out. And I understand that I have no idea where the story is about to play out because, you know, I didn't play the games, but in the fallout of our own mini-apocalypse, I find myself wanting more from this show. I'm aware that on some level, I'm not really meeting this show where it is, but it feels like a step backward in the evolution of the genre. A lot of times, The Last of Us can feel like HBO Walking Dead. Now that's not to say that there aren't parts of the show that I absolutely love.
Don't.
My favorite scenes in The Last of Us are actually the flashbacks. These aren't ripped from the game, but are wholly original creations of the show. Ones that show the world on the precipice of annihilation. They're incredibly powerful moments, filled with the dread of the coming doom.
True, fungi cannot survive if its host's internal temperature is over 94 degrees. But what if that were to change? What if, for instance, the world were to get slightly warmer? Well, now there is reason to evolve.
So if that happens,
we lose.
In a lot of these genre stories, there is a scientist like this, who is kind of a canary in the coal mine. They're ringing the alarm bells and explaining what's about to happen. Think Jeff Goldblum in Independence Day.
They're using our own satellites against us. And the clock is ticking.
Or think Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park.
There's one thing the history of evolution has taught us. It's that life will not be contained.
You know what? Just think about Jeff Goldblum.
I'm not a business person. You're speaking, whatever you say is Greek to me, but all these, the mountains of produttore and I don't know, it'll all work out.
But it's these scenes in The Last of Us especially that remind me of creator Craig Mazin's previous show, a show which I think might be a more powerful and insightful apocalypse story for our time, Chernobyl. The Chernobyl meltdown of 1986 did not end the world, of course, but I also think that's part of what makes it so interesting in the hindsight of COVID-19. There is no singular apocalypse. What we learned in the pandemic and what Chernobyl shows us is that we still won't believe those scientists even after the doom is here.
It exploded! The core exploded!
He's in shock. Get him out of here.
The lid is off. The stack is burning. I saw it.
You're confused. RBMK reactor cores don't explode.
And that's because that doom is never as simple or easily visible as we think it will be. It's not a zombie outbreak. It's not an alien invasion. It's not Moonfall. And I think this is what zombie and post-apocalyptic genre stuff misses today. They always imagine the world ending overnight.
Friday night, September 26, 2003. By Monday, everything was gone.
But we've seen that when these apocalyptic disasters actually happen, they aren't overnight world changers. No single thing will destroy the world or society in an instant. And what Chernobyl shows us is how mundane and frustrating the actual apocalypse is. A parade of people avoiding accountability and spreading disinformation instead of addressing the disaster. Because to address it would be to accept the horrific truth.
There has been an accident at Chernobyl, but I've been assured there is no problem.
I'm telling you that there is.
I prefer my opinion to yours.
Even as scientists ring the alarm bells in Chernobyl, they're quickly ignored or dismissed as alarmists.
There's no place for alarmist hysteria.
It's not alarmist if it's a fact.
And this is the way we've seen the apocalypse affect people. It's not so much that people are concerned with screwing over others for a quick score, it's that they simply refuse to believe the gravity of the situation. During COVID, people who didn't wear masks generally didn't do so because they wanted to hurt other people, they just didn't believe that they mattered. To them, the global pandemic was just not that big of a deal.
What does the dosimeter say?
3.6 Roentgen, but that's as high as the meter.
3.6. Not great, not terrible.
Man, you rewatch Chernobyl and you're like, yeah, the response to COVID-19 makes a lot of sense. And we see the same dynamic at play with climate change, where it has been constantly denied and minimized. To me, it's precisely how invisible the apocalypse is that makes it so terrifying, at least in 2023. Whether that's nuclear radiation, a deadly virus, or climate change. In fact, The Last of Us changing the spores to bites is exactly the kind of rewriting of the truth that Chernobyl warns us against. It's an attempt to paint apocalyptic events not as what we just witnessed, but instead as something simpler and easier. One of the reasons the world building in The Last of Us and Station 11 is so compelling is that they both imagine a world without us, and how nature might reclaim our spaces. They both paint the post-apocalyptic world as one full of green. And while it's beautiful to think that nature would heal, Chernobyl also reminds us that it won't, necessarily.
Animal control. Yeah, they're radioactive, so they have to go. But it's not hard, they're mostly pets. They're happy to see you. They run right up to you. Bang.
At the beginning of the pandemic, there were all these viral stories and memes about how maybe humans, maybe we were the virus. What with dolphins returning to the canals of Venice, that was fake, and air pollution actually legitimately falling. But the dirty secret is that nature didn't heal following the pandemic, because ecosystems are complex. Human-driven climate change threatens to destroy huge swaths of the environment, and the Chernobyl meltdown mutated and permanently altered its wildlife. It led to more environmental death than reclamation.
Since then, the creation of a 1,000-square-mile exclusion zone prohibiting human activity has led some to declare the area a restored Eden, brimming with wildlife. But for more than a decade, Timothy Mousseau, an American scientist, has conducted an extensive biological survey here, and his studies have shown that life has been far more slow to recover than previously believed.
Chernobyl is certainly every bit as bleak as The Last of Us, but it's bleak for a clear purpose, as a warning.
What is the cost of lies? It's not that we'll mistake them for the truth. The real danger is that if we hear enough lies, then we no longer recognize the truth at all.
And even as bleak as it can be, Chernobyl is also deeply invested in showcasing those making heroic sacrifices for people they have not and will never meet. It's not a story about enduring and surviving.
You'll do it because it must be done. You'll do it because nobody else can. And if you don't, millions will die. If you tell me that's not enough, I won't believe you.
We know, we've just seen, that when the world ends, it doesn't. It just keeps on ticking. And I think that's a much more realistic and horrifying apocalypse than any kind of clickers from The Last of Us. I'm reminded of my favorite line from Alan Moore's Watchmen, where in the attempt to avoid nuclear holocaust, anti-villain Ozymandias unleashes a giant interdimensional squid, a threat so weird and existential that humanity can't help but unite against it. Millions die, and afterwards Ozymandias asks Dr. Manhattan, God, for absolution. I did the right thing, didn't I? It all worked out in the end. Dr. Manhattan responds, in the end, nothing ends, Atrian. Nothing ever ends. A post-apocalyptic world is a fantasy. There's no real after, just through. And I think that's what makes this survivalist vision of the genre with little to no self-awareness so bland to me. You can imagine any world emerging from the ashes. And this is what you choose? Why? What are you trying to say? Rushkoff ends his essay about the survival of the richest this way. Being human is not about individual survival or escape. It's a team sport. Whatever future humans have, it will be together. So something apocalyptic actually happened to my last video. It got age restricted for a little while. Okay, apocalyptic maybe an exaggeration, but it's something that I've been noticing spreading like the cordyceps fungus, hitting a lot of creators in this space. When a video gets age restricted, they don't tell you why or what segment they're objecting to, and it's just not that fun to be at the whims of Google like they're Fedra. Luckily, that's exactly why me and other video essayists and creative educational YouTubers created Nebula, our own streaming service. There, we don't have to worry about demonetization or the algorithm, because you're supporting us more directly. And there are a ton of goodies on Nebula. There's Nebula First, where videos are posted well before they're released to the public on YouTube. PhilosophyTube released her video 2 weeks before its public launch, and it's on effective altruism that ties really well into that survival of the richest essay we were talking about. And there are also Nebula originals that you won't find anywhere else. Content that can't exist on YouTube and where we can kind of experiment. The Lefty channel Second Thought put up a really in-depth analysis of those Germans who had a name that started with N, I think. They can be really hard to talk about on YouTube without running into the platform's content guidelines. So Nebula is the only place you'll be able to find it. Finally, if you sign up for Nebula using my link, you'll also get free access to Nebula classes, where our creators host classes on how to be, well, creators. You can learn how Patrick Willems analyzes movies, or how Nando V Movies learned how to get paid to be a full-time fan of stuff. It's great if you're crazy enough to want to try to get into this line of work, or if you just love seeing behind the curtain. If you sign up for Nebula using the link below, you can get Nebula for a little over $250 a month. And if you use that link below, you'll not only get access to all the great stuff Nebula offers, you'll also be directly supporting me. A portion of your subscription goes directly to me, and so as an unbiased person, I think that's a really great deal. You'll get access to some of your favorite creators, avoid annoying ads, and support me directly. So, yeah, do it. Do it now! Or don't, I don't know. If you like this video, please share, like, and subscribe. You can also support me in other ways on Patreon, or follow me on Twitter, or, you know, do those things. I was not kidding about the age restriction thing. That kind of stunk. That was on the propaganda video. So if you want to see more propaganda videos and stuff like that, it would be good if you supported me in other ways that I don't have to rely on those annoying mid-roll ads. So yeah, think about that.